Hello and welcome to another episode of the Driving It Home podcast. This is your host, Johnny Trokey, and this is the only place in the world where you can come to get bonus takeaways and practical action steps from the latest sermons that have been preached here at the Cheyenne Church of Christ, all in an effort to help drive these lessons home for you and your family so they show up in your everyday walk with the Lord. Let's get started. Guys, we got a full episode today. We're talking about Chris's latest sermon on intentions and attitudes. Man, I've been thinking about this a ton because it really convicted me. It really caused me to think hard about my own attitude and my own intentions as a church member. Chris mentioned 4 attitudes to have as a Christian. Those 4 attitudes being, I am unifying, I am sacrificial, I am prayerful, and I am joyful. And you guys, those things really challenged me. When I thought about it, it was one of those lessons where the more I thought about it, the more I realized I needed to hear it. I needed the message that it was really speaking to me. And I want to go in a direction that is not really anything specific about one or two things Chris said or one verse that he used, but is really what I think is the underlying theme in his sermon. And by the way, you guys, if you want to watch Chris's sermon, you can find it on our YouTube channel, at the Cheyenne Church of Christ on YouTube under live videos. You can watch the most recent worship service to get a little more insight to what this podcast is really talking about. But the underlying theme for me from Chris's lesson was taking responsibility for your faith. Now, Chris was more specifically talking about attitudes, and I appreciated that. But I think our attitude is a lot of times an indicator or a symptom of our growth in our faith or lack thereof. I think a lot of times when I'm reflecting on my own grumpiness or my own joyousness, it's directly linked to, have I been growing in my faith? Have I been engaged in prayer? Have I been engaged in conscious Bible study? Have I been engaged and intentional about worshiping the Lord and about pursuing relationship with Him and walking in His steps? And I found that when I think about the times when I've been grumpy as a Christian, it's the times when I haven't been doing any of those things. And so that's why I say that the underlying theme or my underlying takeaway from Chris's lesson on attitudes is, have I been taking responsibility for my faith? And it's not a fun question to ask when you know the answer is no. I mean, it's a good question to ask when you know the answer is yes, right? Because it makes you feel good about yourself. But when the answer is no, like I haven't been taking responsibility. I haven't really been in the Word. I haven't really been teaching faith to my children. I haven't really been, being a good head of my household. I haven't been pursuing personal relationship with the Lord. I have been relying on Chris's sermons to be my primary source of spiritual food. That's a real problem. That's a real problem. And what it leads to is dissatisfaction, discontentment, disrespect, dissension, a lot of dis words. But you guys, it leads to things that are not good. But what it has to do with more is our own internal motives, our own internal responsibility. And where we're putting our focus. If we've been putting our focus on growing in our faith, we're going to be more joyful. If we have been neglecting that, we're going to be more grumpy. We're going to be more cynical and critical. It's about what we focus on. And this is a biblical principle. In Proverbs chapter 22, verses 9 and 10, it says, "Whoever has a bountiful eye will be blessed, for he shares his bread with the poor. Drive out a scoffer, and strife will go out, and quarreling and abuse will cease." The other night I was talking about these two verses with my children, talking about what it means to have a bountiful eye. Now, if you want to have a good time, ask your 4-year-old, if you've got one, what a bountiful eye is. You get some funny responses. But I was talking about that with the kids, about a bountiful eye. Having a bountiful eye means that we are looking at the world from a place of gratitude, contentment, and abundance. That's what it means to have a bountiful eye, that we are looking at the world around us through the lens of contentment and gratitude and abundance, that we've been given so much. We have been given a bounty of good things, and we are viewing the world through the good. And the scripture says that when we do that, we will be blessed, for he shares his bread with the poor. It means that when we look at the world from a place of abundance, from a place of gratitude and contentment, then when we see somebody else in need, we don't feel like we can't help them. We actually feel like we can, and then we do help them because we've got plenty to give, plenty to share. And so when we are full of God's love, and when we are full of his wisdom and full of his might and power, then we can share those things with others. When we are full of the grace of God, we can extend grace to other people. When we are full of the love of Christ, we can extend love to other people, because Christ's love is boundless. It is bountiful, and God's grace is bountiful. There's always more than enough. But if we are coming from a place of lack, coming from a place of, I don't have enough, I need more, then when we see somebody in need, not only are we not going to help them, but we're also going to look to find reasons of why we don't have enough. And we're going to become cynical. And we're going to scoff. And we're going to complain about church leadership, about church staff, about church events, about church Bible classes, about the songs we sing or don't sing. You guys, this convicted me a ton this past week, because I realized I had been viewing the world around me through the lens of lacking. And that's my fault. It's so easy, though, in that moment to go, well, no, I have a bad attitude because this other person did or said something that I didn't like. That's why I have a bad attitude. But guys, do you realize that when we do that, not only are we punting the responsibility for our attitudes to somebody else, which is always a bad idea, but we're also neglecting the fruit of the Spirit of self-control. As Christians, we've been called to be self-controlled. What part of relying on somebody else's behavior to determine our attitude is self-controlled? It's literally the opposite. It's others-controlled. But as Christians, we've been called to something higher. We've been called to something greater. Whoever has a bountiful eye will be blessed. But it says the person who's scoffing, the person who's complaining, it says to drive them out, get them out of here, because they are going to ruin what it is that you're trying to build. They're going to ruin what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Get the complainers out and surround yourself with people who have the bountiful eye. You guys, which one are you? Are you the one that has been complaining or complimenting? Are you the one who's been forgiving or not? Have you been the one who's been causing dissension and being cynical? Or are you the one who's been focusing on abundance and gratitude and contentment and being a joyous Christian, a joyous church member, pursuing unity, acting sacrificially, engaging with God in prayer regularly, and as a result, being joyful? You guys, our attitudes, my attitude is up to me. And if that's true, then your attitude is up to you. It's not up to me. It's not up to Chris. It's not up to the elders. It's not up to your friend in church. It's up to you. If you're grateful, it's because you chose to be grateful. If you're ungrateful, it's because you chose to be ungrateful. If you've got a good attitude, well, you get the idea. You guys, I hope you've got something out of this week's episode. If you have, would you do me a favor? Would you write a review or leave a 5-star rating on this podcast? It helps us get the word out to more people and be a blessing to more people. Or if you're watching on YouTube and you got something out of it, would you hit the like button to like this video and subscribe to our channel? That helps us out a ton. That would be great. You guys, not only do I hope this episode encouraged you, but I hope it challenged you to think and to take responsibility for your faith. You guys, thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week, next time here on the Driving It Home podcast.